ask you to please, there we go, with great timing, Kathy. I ask you to please, I was like, that wasn't me. I ask you to please turn off your camera if you do not wish to be recorded. If you're okay with being recorded, please go ahead and keep your camera on. It makes it so much better for all of our speakers, whomever is speaking today, to be able to see some faces in the crowd, to be able to see reactions, to see those shocks, the surprises, the laughter, the tears from laughter, all of those things that make a great presentation possible. So if you're okay with that, please keep your cameras on this morning. It is much appreciated for everybody. Looks like we saw some folks coming in this morning. We're up to about 30, which is the biggest crowd we've had so far this week, which is fantastic. So thank you all for coming. We're so glad that you all are here. So Kathy, do you want to stop sharing your background? Stop sharing your screens. There we go. Thank you all very much. And welcome. We are so glad you're here this morning. Today is a town hall or a roundtable session for the next hour or so. I'm going to start with some opening thoughts of the district and kind of where we are with Toastmasters and both individually and as a district and as clubs. And then we're going to get into a bunch of question and answers, and we are going to address everything that you want to talk about this morning. Everything and anything, nothing is off limits. We are certainly open to, I'm certainly open to answering anything that's out there. So any questions that you've been pondering, please let me have them this morning. We will talk through all and everything that's out there. But I want to start with kind of a background, kind of a history to why we're doing this one this morning. How many of you over the past 18 months of doing this stuff on Zoom at some point have figured, I'm just tired of Zoom? That at some point you're like, I really kind of miss people. I miss being around people. I miss that interaction of people. I think everybody out there, it's very rare to find anybody that at some point has said, no, you know something, I really was tired of people, and I am so glad I don't have to see them in person anymore. Most of us as Toastmasters did this in the first place because of people. We stayed because of relationships. So I completely understand that this is a long, long year and a half. And it's certainly not something that any of us anticipated, but it's kind of where we are. And I'm so glad that you all are taking one more morning out of your lives to come and join us for this. But we're going to go back to that thought of people. When you first joined Toastmasters, I want you to unmute one at a time and share, why did you first join Toastmasters? I'm curious, why did some of you first join? Thomas.
My boss suggested it.
Your boss, Stephanie's boss suggested it. Thomas Doherty?
I mean, Toastmasters. I first joined Toastmasters in, I forget the year, but I had advanced to the point in my career as an engineer where I was giving Monday morning data analysis reports to all of the vice presidents of the corporation. After about the third one, my supervisor came to me and said I should run, not walk, to the nearest Toastmaster club because, in his words, your reports are boring. So I joined.
So it sounds like Stephanie's boss might have been a little more gentle than Thomas's boss, but both of you suggested by bosses to go. Why else? Were there any personal reasons why people joined Toastmasters? Myra, I see you're unmuted.
Well, I was invited to do a speech for a group that had a very, very strict time thing. If you went over the 5 minutes, the audience was instructed to clap you off the stage. And I timed myself. I thought, no big deal. Got clapped off the stage, wanted to die, just wanted. And I thought, and I also realized I was doing more public speaking and that there was no way to get real feedback. Everybody would come up and say, oh, that was good. Boy, that was great. And it didn't mean a thing. I didn't believe it, and I wasn't getting any feedback. So that's why I joined.
Very nice. Thank you, Myra. Richard, what about you?
Both of my parents were in Toastmasters at one point or another in their career. And when the club became active on campus, I kept thinking, I should join. And one day I thought, well, yeah, I can do the scary thing. I'll join. I'll talk in front of people. So I did. And I'm glad that I did.
Very nice. So you can see there's kind of a range of why people join Toastmasters. I think if we all went, if all 32 of us shared why we joined Toastmasters, there's going to be some nuanced variances for why all of us are here. We all wanted something different. I personally joined in the first place because I had lost my job and forgotten who I was, and I needed to find my voice. I had no idea who I was becoming, and I knew I needed help with that. So all of us joined for a very different reason. But there's one thing that keeps us as Toastmasters, and I think there's one common thread that all of us find that keeps us as Toastmasters. And it's not the fact that there's a program, it's not the fact that there's a pathways process, an educational system, it's the people. We keep coming back because we've made connections to people, not just any people, but our people. We found, wherever we are, we have found some sort of our tribe, a group of folks that are willing to walk with us and help us, and we're willing to walk with them and help them. So there's a give and take in this Toastmasters process, in this Toastmasters relationship, where we help somebody else and they help us. I don't think any of us, I'm curious, did any of you join Toastmasters because you wanted to try to do this by yourself and just had 45 extra bucks laying around? Shocking, that never gets a hand raise. We all joined because we needed the help of somebody else, whether it was a boss prodding us to say, maybe you need to go find help by somebody else, or maybe it was our own realization that we don't want to get clapped off the stage, or our own realization that maybe we need to do that scary thing or just develop ourselves. We all did it because we found that there was a group of people who were willing to help, and that we invested our time and the best of ourselves in to help them as well. And it's different for everybody. It's different for everybody. But I want to start with keeping that in mind this morning. So as we go through this conversation, I want you to keep that in mind this morning. There is one main philosophy, one main thought process that runs through everything we are doing this year, that hopefully will run through everything we do over the next few years. And that is the fact that we all joined to be part of a community. And the community of Toastmasters is the most important part, and that is why we are here. Everything we are doing this year is not based on trying to become a distinguished district. Let me repeat that. Nothing we are doing this year is based on the principle of trying to become a distinguished district. And yes, I'm a district director, Lou, and I am saying that nothing we are doing this year is based upon trying to become a distinguished district. Everything we are doing this year is based upon trying to build connections between people, to build that community of Toastmasters, to build the relationships, those fibers of connection that draw us back to the clubs that we're in, to the people that we love, to the relationships that we have cultivated over the years. Community, I believe the community field, the connection, is the most important part of why we're Toastmasters. The Distinguished Club program, the Distinguished District program, is a measure of how we're helping people. It itself shouldn't be the goal to get a plaque, to get a ribbon, to get some sort of thing that you can print up on the internet by yourself. The goal is to build the connection to help the people to do the things that they need to do to become better people, better speakers, better leaders. When we do that, we naturally do end up becoming, some of us become distinguished clubs and districts and areas, but the goal isn't to focus on that. The goal is to focus on the relationship. So once again, the goal is to focus on the relationships we have within Toastmasters, not the outcomes this year. It is all about the relationships. And let me give you an example of why the relationships I think are so very valuable to our clubs and very valuable to us. When we meet online, is it more or less convenient for you to join your home club or some other club that meets in your time zone somewhere else? So say you're in Indianapolis. Lou lives in Indianapolis. Is it more or less convenient for Lou to join his home club or to join a club that meets in Boston where he doesn't know anybody? Which one's more or less convenient?
It's the same.
It's the same, right? It's the same. It's the same convenience. But then why would Lou or any of us keep going back to the same clubs? It's the comfort with the people. We trust the people. It's the people that matter. In this day that we can go and join any club, any district, any area, and Mark Walton is on a quest to join every club in every district, in every area. The goal isn't that we're trying to expand ourselves to just meet everybody new. The goal is we're trying to become better in some way. So the comfort factor is what matters. That's what I talk about with the community. It's that comfort and that trust to why we're focused on the people, why we're focused on the relationship this year. So what do you think about that concept of focusing on the relationship over the outcome this year? What questions do you have about that, or thoughts do you have about that idea? None? Everyone was like, okay, those are words. I guess we'll just go with that. It's Thomas, Mr. Doherty.
I'm sorry, I couldn't find my, turn on my audio. My question is, as a VPE, I have found various goals, personal goals by people that don't really, some of whom are pretty low expectations for themselves, and I'm having problem figuring out how to get them motivated to do more for themselves. And I'd sure appreciate some thoughts from other people about that.
Very nice. We will absolutely get there. We will absolutely get to that point. Let me table that for a minute, though, if we could. I want to talk about how to use the educational systems a little bit more effectively, and we'll talk about that. Is that okay, Tom?
Yes.
Okay, very good. What else? Anybody else have thoughts about focusing on the relationships first this year? Mark Mandel. I saw 2 hands up.
No, I was just sending the emails. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I just finished sending all the emails.
okay. Never
I was
mind.
excited.
Okay, it's like a roller coaster. Mark Walton.
Yes, thank you, fellow Toastmasters. This is genius, Scott. This is what I'm thinking at any rate. The real world that we're in today, it doesn't seem to fit the Toastmasters template for distinguished district, division, area, weekend, anything. So let's focus on what we do well. And I really, really like this idea. So thank you for it.
Thanks, Mark. Richard.
We've had an influx of new prospects, and some have become new members. And I really enjoy watching them become more comfortable with the club, do their icebreaker speeches, and add their twist to the club, their spark, that when they do that, it changes the club for the better a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, that is 100% true. Thank you. Stephanie.
I have seen that if that relationship is there, you've got people who are wanting to help one another, and you trust more the comments, the feedback that is being provided to you. So the growth just becomes much stronger when the relationships are there.
Absolutely. Thank you. All of that is 100% true. Now, how many of us, when you think about our clubs, how many of us have as many members as we had 18 months ago? How many have as many members as we want? A couple of you have as many members as you had. Okay, a couple of you. How many have as many members as you want? How many of you are in clubs that routinely your meetings could fit into a booth at a restaurant? 6 people, maybe if you're lucky, 3 sometimes. Maybe you have a really good meeting and you get 12. How many of you have meetings that routinely you see 4 people? And it's okay to raise your hand. It's a real thing out there. There are a lot of us that have small clubs. So if we have small clubs and we're looking to build relationships, is there another way that we could find to increase the amount of people that are at our meetings? Because what's a better meeting? A meeting with 4 people or a meeting with 12 people? 12 people, right? Well, you have 4 people and you have one person that is the speaker, the Toastmaster, the odd counter, and the grammarian. And then you have a second person that is the general evaluator, the evaluator, the timer. It doesn't make for a great experience. All of us have clubs that we normally go to, that we're tied to, that we love, that meet on a specific time. None of us have clubs that meet at such a time that it is so unique that nobody else meets at that exact same time. If you meet at Tuesday at 7:30, I guarantee there's another club out there that meets at Tuesday at 7:30, or Friday at 9:30, or Thursday at noon. Whatever it is, there's another club out there that meets at the same time. If you join those meetings together, instead of having one small meeting, you end up having a larger meeting that you can then expand the relationship capital between the clubs. And it does 2 things. One, it makes the members of your club, all of a sudden, you have a much better time within the club meeting. And secondly, well, I guess 3 things. Secondly, you get to learn how other clubs do stuff. There's no one right way to Toastmasters. We all do stuff just a little bit differently. I had never heard of a table topics evaluator until I moved to Indiana. Never heard of it. But it's a common thing, at least in Division B in Fort Wayne. There are a lot of ways that we all use to Toastmaster that are different. And maybe your club will learn something new, and maybe your club will share something new and somebody else will learn from you. And the third thing is when you have a visitor that walks in, like Richard was saying, it's great to have those visitors come in and then end up becoming members. It's more likely you're going to be able to convert a visitor to a member if they walk in and have a wonderful experience, a fun time, that they walk away saying, that was a blast. And they don't have to know that you're 2 clubs together. They just have to know that Tuesday at 7:30, they click on this link and they have met a new tribe that they're going to be connected to, and they appreciate that connection. So finding another club can really help you grow. And there are some out there that are absolutely healthy clubs right now that are still meeting with 20 people, and that's fantastic, but you're in the minority. There's a lot of us that have clubs out there that are small. And there's a lot of us that have clubs out there that we're seeing go away, that we are saddened every day by another notice that comes out for X club has decided to disband because they've given up on trying to rebuild the membership. And I completely get it. I'm in one of those clubs too, and it is hard to let go. But before you do that, try joining with another club. And there's one way that you can find another club to do that with that is open for that sort of a thing. Think about the Boost program. The Boost program was intended to help you find speakers, but that also helps you find other clubs out there that when you look through the list of clubs looking for Boost speakers, they list their times that they're meeting, they're listing when they're available. That's a club that doesn't have enough membership to be able to fill all their meetings because they're looking for help. If you look through that Boost roster, you can find someone else to go join, to come help, to go help them. And when you put that club capital together, instead of having one small meeting, you end up with one large meeting, and all of a sudden the experience is expanded. And that can be a fantastic way to help us grow. So LaDonna, I see you with your hand raised.
That was an accident.
Okay, no worries. So what do you think about the concept of joining together as clubs? What do you think about the concept of maybe not joining together permanently, but coming together as in a meeting platform so that you get to share what you know with somebody else who knows what they know, and between the 2 of you, you develop a little bit of a stronger meeting. Thoughts on that? I see a thumb up from Mandy. Diane?
I think it's a fantastic idea. Our club routinely has 12 to 14 people, so we're not struggling so much. But even with that, it feels stilted because we still manage to have, I think we have 25 members, but a lot of them don't come routinely and they're just loyal and they keep renewing until we go back in person and they still never show up. So if there's a smaller club out there that really only gets 4 to 6 people, and if you want to meet early on Friday mornings, we meet 7 a.m. But I'd be happy to talk to you about joining forces.
Fantastic. I have a 7:30 Friday AM club that routinely gets 3 people.
Oh, wow.
So I will be calling you so that
Okay,
we
cool.
can get together. Yes.
Cool.
You're absolutely, I love that. Joining together, it's about the relationship. That's one of the most important parts. Are there going to be challenges with this? Absolutely. Is one club going to say, no, we do it this way? Maybe. But remember that if you're coming together, the goal is to be able to expand that capital to help learn, to do things a little bit differently. And maybe you'll just learn something brand new. So I encourage you as you go into this, go into it with eyes wide open, with the possibility that you may learn something new, you may experience something new, and you may make some new friends in some new places, some new connections that you never knew before, and all of a sudden your tribe then increases. Between Mark Mandel and Mark Walton, they have boosted an incredible amount. And they've made some friends all over the world and all over the state and all over the district. So I encourage you, give it a shot. Absolutely give it a shot. But that takes us to a third point here. When, as Tom Doherty was alluding to, we do have an educational program, Pathways, which is here to stay. And I know that it is still a matter of conversation out there. Can we go back to legacy? No, we cannot go back to legacy. I'm so sorry, that train has left the station. Legacy was a fantastic program, but it's evolved into Pathways. Here's the march. Here's the thing that LaDonna, I agree. I love Pathways too. But I love it because there's different ways to use Pathways. And I think this is the thing that we tend to get stuck on a little bit. And I've heard this hundreds of times over the last couple of years. Pathways doesn't fit what I'm trying to do, so it's hard for me to use. How many of you have heard something like that within your club? So a lot of us, a lot of head shaking. When was the last time you met the Pathways police? If there's Pathways police out there, please call the real police, because that's not a real thing. There's no Pathways police. We would call those people stalkers. There's no Pathways police. The goal of Pathways is to provide a framework to help you as an individual develop a specific skill. What if your speech, your project doesn't fit neatly into that Pathways project? Can you still use a project? Yes, absolutely. And Mark, no, it's not just to pound it in there to make it fit, but it's to take the pieces of that Pathways project that make sense, that apply to whatever it is you're trying to use, whatever you're trying to learn. Use that part. Learn from the parts of it that make sense to you. Use the projects out there that apply to whatever it is you're trying to do. As we talked about at the beginning, all of us joined for different reasons. We can find things within Pathways to help allow us to be able to develop whatever that reason was, help us get just a little bit better. And yes, level 3 and 4 and 5 are fantastic for that. But let me give you an idea for levels 1 and 2, especially let's talk about the icebreaker. How many of you have ever had to meet a new group of people? If you're going to go meet a new club, that's a new group of people, are they going to know you? They're new. No, it goes in that whole sentence. You can use your icebreaker to practice introducing yourself to brand new groups, to brand new audiences. Maybe the first time you did an icebreaker, you applied that icebreaker to Toastmasters. Maybe the second time you do that icebreaker, you apply that icebreaker to Rotary. Maybe the third time you do your icebreaker, you apply it to a church group. Maybe the fourth time you do it, you apply it to how to introduce yourself to the new work group because you got promoted or transferred, you got a new job, whatever it is. You can use our projects in whatever it matters to you. Don't try to say, I can't fit into Pathways. Allow Pathways to mold and form around you to be a guidance for you. If you have members out there that are having a hard time figuring out how Pathways can apply to them, I urge you, wander away from this is how it's written and this is the way it has to be done. And instead, this is the way it's written. How can that work for you? How can Pathways within whatever it is you're trying to do work for you? There's one question you have to ask everyone before you do that. What do you want out of Toastmasters? What's bringing you here? What's bringing you back? When you work in the corporate world, how many of you had an interview before you got a job? Hopefully most of you, when you got a job, somebody talked to you before you got a job. You just didn't show up on day one and were like, hey, I'm here, where's my office? That's usually not a thing. That's usually called a stalker, and that's different. We had interviews when we started. When you left a job, has anybody ever left a job and gotten an exit interview? What went wrong? Why did you leave? Well, there's a third kind of interview that's out there that we don't talk about that much, and HR people like myself don't tend to use it nearly as often. And it's called a stay interview. What's keeping you here? What do you need from us? How can we help you develop more within your role? A stay interview. Why are you staying? When was the last time you had a stay interview within your club about why your other members are there and why they're staying? When you joined Toastmasters, you probably joined for a specific reason. Stephanie joined because her boss said you should go to Toastmasters. I have a feeling that her boss now is probably saying, Stephanie, would you please give a presentation to the organization, because she's gotten so much better. The reason why she's here has changed. There's something that keeps her back, that keeps drawing her in. There's something that keeps drawing all of us in. How many of us are here for the exact same today that we were when we joined? We've evolved, haven't we? Kathy, your job has changed significantly. You're trying to figure out what's next. Rakaya, you were afraid to try to be a Zoom master, and now here you are doing presentations on how to use Zoom. We all evolve and grow. Where is it that you can help those members in your club evolve to the next step? How can you help them grow? Ask them. Maybe what you want from them isn't what they want for themselves. Maybe what they see we do isn't what they need. The great thing is there's no one right way to Toastmaster. So I encourage you, be pliable enough that maybe your way is not the way for them, and allow them to find their own way and still fit within your group. And when they do that, they're going to be forever grateful that they took the next step forward. So I'd love to hear questions and comments and thoughts about those three things. Now, that's kind of a lot to unpack. Joining other clubs, stay conversations, using Pathways in a different way. Mark Walton.
Yes, thank you, fellow Toastmasters. I learned this morning at a different club meeting that Pathways level 1 has been significantly improved.
Mm-hmm.
It's really much better. This, of course, has been communicated to us by Denver. And like most of us didn't pay attention to all that flood of email. But believe me, when you enroll in a new path, you will probably really like the changes that have been made in level 1, which now focuses more on how to instead of what to. It will be much more relevant to new speakers. I'm excited.
Very nice. Absolutely. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Lou.
Yeah, Scott, for the, what makes you stay, I think a lot of clubs in the past have used moments of truth as a barometer for how the club is doing. A lot of that was centered around the 6 sort of core principles that you've seen in the area visit reports. Similar to how companies do pulse surveys, they want to see how workers are feeling, whether they're feeling appreciated, et cetera. A lot of clubs have used that as a springboard for what to improve within the club. It may have been de-emphasized a little bit within Pathways because they haven't figured out, I guess, how to put those series, the Leadership Excellence, Successful Club, and Better Speaker series into Pathways, or at least I haven't seen that. But that's one that's I found has been really important in the past. I'd like to see an update or a refresh to that kind of fits the sort of Google form survey type of format. But certainly that's something that clubs can do to figure out what to improve upon within the member experience.
I think from a macro level, you're absolutely right, Lou. But I'm talking about more from a micro level. If you have a club, and if this was our club, and we as a club came together and said, the one thing we're all looking for is this thing, that's great. But what Chase needs is different from what Stephanie needs, is different from what Richard needs, is different from what Thomas needs, and Rick needs, and I need, and you need. What I'm challenging is for everyone to have conversations with your members, not based around what the club as a whole can do better. What can we do to help you as an individual, to tie you into the club? How do we make Toastmasters more relevant for you as a person on your individual journey? And you're absolutely right. The moments of truth can be a fantastic tool for the club to use on a more macro level, but on a more micro level. What is it that we can do to help Chase develop? What is it we can do to help Chase take the next step? If it's Chase, if it's not Chase, don't ask somebody else what we can do to help Chase, clearly. But how do we help that individual person on a micro level? How do we help them? And that's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah, there is the new member interest survey as well that has been utilized. I don't know if it's been updated, but certainly that's something. But the moments of truth was essentially so that the club officers weren't working in a vacuum as they make decisions for the club. It was to get a feel for what the club members or individuals would want to do. Right. But certainly there's many different ways to do that.
Yeah. We go back to the relationships. Individual relationships are paramount. They really matter. Jane, we'll get you in a couple seconds. Adrian. Long time no see, my friend. Jane, hold on. Adrian has the floor. Hold on.
Fellow Toastmasters, I have a two-parter. So the reason that I stayed with Pathways or stayed with Toastmasters, I joined because I needed to develop skills to become more confident and to be a better speaker. But I stayed because it's a skill like anything else that has to be practiced. And I was asked that same question. I gave a speech at a women's group a couple weeks ago. And somebody asked me, you've been a Toastmaster for over 20 years. Why? Don't you ever graduate? And I said, no, you want to continue to hone those skills. It's like if you learn how to play golf, you can't just take one lesson and then say, I'm good. I don't need any more lessons. You have to continue to play. You have to get feedback. You have to be able to develop and hone those skills. And confidence in public speaking is the same thing. And then my second part of the answer, the reason that I gave that speech was because somebody had asked me from my club to give a speech on how to give presentations. And because I don't do anything for free, I had to find some place in my current path that I could use that speech to get credit for it. And in the current path that I'm in, I'm at level 3. I ended up finding something from level 5. And it turned out to be a fabulous project for me. It was how to be a professional speaker. So I was able to not only find a project in Pathways that I could get credit for this presentation, but also I learned some things in that project that helped me to do a better job giving that presentation. So nice, I used Pathways in probably not the normal way, but it worked for me. and I stay because I want to continue to grow.
I love that. Thank you, Adrian. That is fantastic. LaDonna, I see you with your hand raised, and then we'll go to Jane.
Let me unmute. I just wanted to share my personal excitement. I joined Pathways because I would be physically ill if I had to speak in public, and I am salary. I was 23 years hourly, and the last 10 I've been salary. And I also felt that I know, especially when I first meet someone or someone at a higher pay grade, I would be so nervous that I would ramble. And then at the end, I'd be, I can't believe I said, I would just want to go hide somewhere. So that was my reason for joining. And my reason to stay and keep going and climbing every ladder is the support I get from my fellow officers and fellow Toastmasters. Subramani and Dave Lanier and Chris Alverson. I can't stress how much I love those guys. They've just been fantastic. I've just completed my level 3 in one of my pathways, and I'm working to finish a level 1. And I told them at our last meeting, I was like, I never imagined giving more than my icebreaker speech. I was that afraid of speaking. And then I couldn't imagine doing a level 3, and here I'm doing a level 3. And I couldn't imagine being an officer, and here I am president. And I couldn't imagine doing 2 pathways at the same time. And I am, and I was like, and one day I'm going to be as great as Subramani. But the thing that just puts that over the top is my boss has finally recognized, like, wow, you know, I'm so proud of you for doing Toastmasters and staying with it and going out and doing this stuff. So she recommended it to one of the people she's mentoring. So that woman is going to join Toastmasters. And I had reached out to another person doing the new employee orientation. So she's been directing. So we've got 3 more people that are going to become Toastmasters once they get into manager approval and all of that, you know, the steps we have to do to get them in. But I just feel that we are this little snowball at the top of the mountain that's just going to grow huge. So I'm excited about our growth now. And where we're going, and finally getting more people to come to our meetings. We've tried doing surveys to find out why current members aren't coming to the meetings. And we've changed times for that. We are looking into doing the joint meetings. We've sent that out to the people that were at the meetings. But I really see that we're on this forward motion finally. We're not idle anymore. We're getting, and a lot of it is getting our name out there.
Yep.
And that's through, you know, like I said, new employee orientation. We even had a manager come to our meeting who is in charge of the Edison engineers, you know, because he was always saying he just figured we were just a social group, and he came to one of our meetings and we floored him. So, I mean, yep. I'm so excited. I'm like, we're going to get so many more people, but
Thank you. Yes, that is fantastic. Thank you so much. You just described in a nutshell the whole principle of relationships and why they matter so much. So one more real quick, Jane.
Yeah, I want to share an actual testimony of one of my people in the club who broke the ice.
Is that ironic that she froze on the word ice? Okay, well, when Jane comes back, we will go back to Jane. So we have that, so relationships, using the Boost program to join clubs together, the relationships formed between the clubs and individuals with pathways. I think that's all, when you look at that all together, it is building a community. Now let's talk about very briefly about kind of the stark reality of where we are as a district. As a district, we've lost almost 60% of our members over a year. Year to year, we've lost close to 60% of our members. And we know that is largely for two big reasons. One, we lost some folks because Legacy was replaced by Pathways. And two, we lost people because when we switched to when we switched over to Zoom from in-person meetings, that didn't translate for everybody. And we are a little bit of a higher tick up on that than what some districts are, but not as bad as others. So we're a little bit on the bottom side of the halfway points, but every district is going through the same sorts of things. Every district is going through it. The one thing that I want us to keep in mind, though, even though we've lost a lot of members, we've retained a ton of members as well. And if you listen to the stories today, you're hearing passion about what Toastmasters means to them individually for their life, for their career, for their future. When we can tap into that for our members, that's really important. That is what will keep drawing people back. So we've tried to do a couple of things for the district as a whole this year that's going to help expand that as well. Our secondary contest this year for the speech contest beyond the international contest is the Humorous Contest. Because when people laugh, people come back together. I think we can all use a little bit of laughter in our lives right now. I know I certainly don't laugh nearly as much today as what I laughed a couple of years ago. And I think a lot of us are in that same boat. Life has gotten complicated for a lot of people, but laughter, as they say, is the best medicine. So the secondary speech contest this year will be the Humorous Speech Contest, which helps us in two ways. One, there's no breakout rooms for the Humorous Speech Contest. For managing the speech contest, way easier. Rick is very happy that there's no evaluation contest this year. And the second thing, when you're looking to try to help individuals find a reason to come and join, to come and experience us, laughter helps. When you can create an environment where people come and laugh and have fun, and if we can develop that skill in our members and develop that skill throughout our clubs, it's going to help draw people in and keep people there. We're all looking for a little bit of an escape at times. We're all looking for a little bit of an opportunity to be light, to experience each other in a friendly way, not with rules, just with laughs. As we go through this process, a couple of things are going to become perfectly clear. One, we are going to mess stuff up. Perfection, the strive for perfection is the enemy of connection. The more you try to do everything right, the less you will actually connect to people. Allow yourself to fail. I have long said that Toastmasters is the perfect laboratory for failure. We want people to come in, try something new, fail miserably in private so they can succeed magnificently in public. Give yourself that room that it's okay to fail at something as long as you're building a connection with somebody. The connection is what matters more than the perfection. I think a lot of us, when we look at hybrid meetings, when we look at the Zoom thing, we're trying to be perfect. We're going to mess stuff up. It's okay. But it also gives us a platform to try stuff here so that when we go out to the real world, we can become better. We can become better at it. So we covered a lot of stuff today. What questions, what thoughts, what comments do you all have in order to that we can answer for you to help make the rest of the year a better year for you? What can we do for you? Please feel free to raise your hand first. Stephanie.
Thank you. My question is, what is the primary communication method for District 11 to get the word out to people? Because I am not a Facebook person, but I try to get out there every so often, and I found out things out there and I'm like, why didn't I get an email? So I need to make sure that my club understands if we need information, this is where we're going to get it.
Yep. Mark Mandel, you want to take that one?
Sure, absolutely. So we have this amazing website where we are trying to keep that as current as possible. So really, we are always going to try and refer people back to the website. So if you saw all my Facebook posts, if you look this week, saying, hey, the session's going on, go to the website for Zoom information. We will, for club officers, communicate by email as well. I know that we tried the monkey chimp thing, but it wasn't very, whatever it's called. And it wasn't very
MailChimp.
successful.
MailChimp,
Sorry,
monkey chimp,
MailChimp. Oh, okay, that makes more sense now. But it wasn't that great and that successful. So we are going to try email, but really we're going to direct you to the website as much as possible.
So does that mean that officers just have to remember every week to go out and look? And is there a specific place where we should look to find upcoming information?
So I'll take this one. So yes, the website is absolutely fantastic. I've also asked everyone to, the reason we went to MailChimp is to make it easier to try to get mass mailings out to our district as a whole. We learned from the open rate that tends to go to spam folders, and it did not work well whatsoever. So we will go back to the individual emails to individual officers that based upon Mark Mandel's restrictions, because he uses a work email address, they'll probably have to end up coming back from me. I had kind of had pushed that kind of back down to the folks that the messages needed to come from. But since it seems that I am probably the easiest one to get stuff out, you will start to see more stuff come from me. MailChimp didn't work. And just posting stuff we know is not the best method to get stuff out there. And like you, I dropped off Facebook. I dropped off of it for mental health reasons. It was just, it was crushing me. So you'll start to see more stuff come from me that would normally come from Mark as well.
Great, thank
That
you.
helps. Sure.
Sorry, I got dropped off by accident, but for our club, be that it's a corporate closed club, and we don't always get the emails or the notification of that because of the firewall thing or something. So keep us in mind when you do a distribution of communication, do a direct email method.
That's why it'll also be on the website. So you can always go to the website to check for it. If your firewall prevents things from coming through, check our website as well.
Yeah, it's the problem is sometimes we go into the website and you say, wait a minute, that was just 2 days ago, So if you have something pressing, it would be best fit for our club to have a direct email contact, and then we'll do the website on our own, yeah.
Yep. Very good. Thank you, Jane. Miss Maurer.
Oh, I was just making a suggestion for Jane, as somebody who occasionally has email issues at the corporate level. You can ask your email provider if things are normally going to come from Scott. You can ask them to whitelist Scott's email address. Then they'll come through, or whatever the email address that's going to be used, and then you won't lose your emails.
In my company, there is a thing called Safe Sender, and you have to recognize that person's email address to add them to the Safe Sender. The problem is, it's very, my club people is not always well versed in technology, so they don't necessarily pay attention to the Safe Sender. So it ends up going to spam all the way. So we don't have that automatic function where if you put somebody's email address, it goes right to you. We get a message saying, this is from outside of the company, so it just delays the whole process. So we don't have that kind of flexibility in some companies have,
So Jane, I just texted you my email address. So add that to your Safe Sender list. What else? What other things can we answer? Tom, I got your note. Yes, I think it would be good to have another Pathways presentation on how to fit your life into Pathways instead of the other way around. I will absolutely do that. We're probably looking at December before we do that, but I will absolutely do that in December. Chase, you're asking, is there a session that enhancing speechcraft? I don't want to wait. Hold on a second. On enhancing speechcraft for recruitment, retention, and club collaboration. I don't know of that, but we can certainly look at that for after the first of the year. We're probably getting too late in the year right now to do one in December, but we can look at doing something like that in January if that works for you. What else? What other questions? What other comments? What other thoughts do you have? Jane?
I have one final question, I promise. To help me understand this, with this new level 1 pathway, you finish that first level, and then you go to your second one, and then if you get onto the second path, correct me if I'm wrong, we have to repeat the exact same thing that we did with level 1 and the other path.
Yep. So again, I talked about this a little bit before. We are always going to be in new situations in life. Your icebreaker, you can introduce yourself to a brand new group of people. You can introduce yourself not to your work friends or your Toastmaster friends, but to some other group you're going to have to meet. When it comes to researching, there are thousands of topics out there that we need to gain knowledge in on an annual basis. You can research something brand new, maybe for work, maybe for life, maybe for church, maybe for a different group you're doing, maybe for Toastmasters. When it comes to evaluations, you can teach people how to do evaluations. So maybe you can teach someone how to do the evaluation instead of you just doing the evaluation. How do you process that? You can find a new way to focus those same projects. The context can change. So the content may stay the same, but the context can change. Where you use it, how you apply it, let that be your guide for how you use pathways, not just in the same way you've always done it. Does that help a little bit more?
I think so. And I think
Okay.
I'm trying to make sure I come up with proper verbiage to help my club member understand. They feel like they're not repeating themselves, you know. So because
Talk
they
about
probably-
context. Talk about
Yeah.
context and the different
Yeah, okay,
places in
okay.
their life. Okay.
Okay.
All right, Rakea, I saw you were next. And then we'll go to Diane.
I just wanted to add, one of the things that as VPE, I was having issues with Pathways is I had a lot of questions on how to do and how to tell my members how to do certain things. And I just want to, I think a lot of the changes that have happened in Pathways is because we were willing to contact the TI and tell them, how do I tell my members how to do this? Or how do I tell my members how to do that? And I think it's important for VPEs, especially, to reach out to them because they're very, very helpful in helping us help our club members advance.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rakea. That is very true. A lot of those changes are driven from the club level. You're absolutely right. Diane.
Hi, I'm just starting to think about contests and getting them organized. So thanks for letting us know it's humorous. I'm happy about that. What is the plan at this point at the district level, area, division, district, about being Zoom or in person?
Everything is going to be virtual this year.
It is.
Yes, and we're doing that so there's 3 reasons why we're doing that. One, COVID sucks.
Yeah,
we can't necessarily pull people together in a way that we feel is going to be safe for everybody involved. So number one, that's the number one reason why we decided to come back off of the in-person and back to the online one. The second is, even if we do something in person, the chance of us getting a full crowd and getting the value for the money that we would spend to put on area contests and division contests and district contests, we're not going to get enough people to show up for it. And it's going to be, we don't have the money to waste on that. And the third one, and this is more practical from a former contestant's point of view, the international contest will be online this year because every club had the option to go either or. So the finals will be online this year. How you give a speech in person is very different from how you give a speech online. So if you are practicing doing in-person presentations and then you make it to the semifinals, and you have to transition over to then be virtual once you get past the district level, it's a whole different speech. It's a whole different everything, and it may not translate. So for consistency for all of our presenters and our contestants, to help them go as far as they can possibly go, let's give them one platform to use throughout the whole thing. So what they're practicing at the club level will be the same thing that they would give if they made it all the way to the international level.
Okay. All right. I have a follow on then.
Sure.
for the virtual contest, as you know, I competed last year. I'm not going to this year. I'm going to coach other people. I'd like to suggest that whoever is going to be the contest masters at any level, area, division, etc., make sure they're prepared, and that there was just a lot of hiccups, and I to the point where I didn't really want to invite friends and family to come see me compete. So I would be willing to assist in that process.
Very good.
Sold. I'm writing your name down right now.
Okay.
We will be doing first week of probably the first week of January at the latest, if not in December. We'll be doing Zoom presentations just on how to actually organize the contest as well. We did them last year. We'll redo them again for this year.
Perfect. Thank you.
But yes, so club contests begin the beginning of January. Area contests begin in the middle of February. Division contests begin the middle of March. And our finals, we pushed back the finals this year, are the first week or the second weekend in May. May 14th, I believe. It's the weekend after Mother's Day, if I remember right. So we pushed it back a little bit to try to give a little bit more time for contestants to get ready to hopefully get somebody to go past the district and get on to the semifinal stage.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Sure. Other questions? Other thoughts? Stephanie, I believe that Mark and Patty had put those onto the website. If not, they'll be going up there very, very shortly because those have been cemented for a little while now. Was this helpful at all? Very good. So I'll be the first to admit that much like many of you, this has been a struggle of a year for me too. If you have questions, if you need someone to talk, if you have a thought, if you just want to talk through it with anybody, give me a call. I know that's an old-fashioned way to do things, and as a almost 54-year-old, yes, the phone actually still does work. I know your phone is your least used app on your phone, but most phones still have a phone feature, shocking as that is. Feel free to give me a call. So if you want to do that, I'm going to put into the chat my email and my phone number, and take those down. And if you need something, just reach out. I'm not fantastic at doing replying the email as quickly as what I would like right now, but give me a call if you need to. I'm certainly open to that as well. Diane, your hand's still up. Did you mean to leave that up? Do you have something else or no? Okay, then Adrian, your hand went up after that.
Thank you, Scott. I just have a question about Pathways. When we introduced Pathways, and we were getting ready to introduce Pathways, we had Pathways ambassadors that went to the clubs and explained the virtues of Pathways because everybody was freaking out about leaving the legacy program. So we really had to talk it up. Here's why Pathways is so wonderful. And I feel like we should do that again, that we should have the ability to talk about Pathways, not comparing it to the legacy program, because we have lots of people that have no idea what the legacy program is, but to talk about what Pathways can do for you and what's so great about it. And, have people visit the clubs and do that again.
I 100% agree with you. And I have tried to put that together for 2 years and have found 2 total participants that are willing to help.
I'll do it.
All right, so now we're up to 3. So if you're interested in talking about Pathways, kind of in the way that we just talked about it, and yes, Tom, I will do a session in the next couple of weeks to kind of talk all of that about Pathways. LaDonna, good luck on your 5K. Go rock it. If I'm willing to do that session, if anybody else is willing to go and virtually go to clubs and talk about Pathways this way, let me know. We are 100% in on that. I've been wanting to do that for a couple of years. Just it doesn't make sense for 2 people, me and somebody else, to go wandering around and try to hit 100 and some clubs. That's just a recipe for disaster and burnout. So if you're interested, hit me up. Everybody, it is 11 o'clock Eastern time here. It's been an hour. I am certainly willing to stay on and answer any other questions, have any other conversations with you. But I thank you so very, very much for the day. I thank you so much for coming to join us today. I hope this was helpful. If you need anything, please reach out. It is all about the relationship and the community. It's all about building those connections that matter. The more that we build the relationships and the connections, the stronger we will be. And that, I believe, is the only way we as a district and we as Toastmasters International will find our way out of this, because the world is changing, and it's the relationships that will help us change in front of the world. So until next time, I thank you. We have a session coming up at 11 o'clock. We will do another networking session for the next half hour or so. And then at 11:30, Trent Deckard and John Peterson are going to talk about growth and development. I thank you so very much. Have yourselves
Scott,
a
if I
wonderful day. I
could-
hope to see you at future sessions as well. And I am going to turn this over to Mark Mandel.
Thank
And
you.
if you want to hit stop record,
Yep.
so that we are done recording with this one and move on to